Welcome to the Healing for Male Survivors podcast. This is a podcast for male survivors of sexual abuse and assault, whether as a child or as an adult. Know that you are not alone and the abuse was not your fault. My name is Mike Chapman. I'm a certified recovery life coach and also a survivor. Let's find hope and healing together. And welcome to the Healing for Male Survivors podcast. I'm your host, Mike Chapman. And today we have a special panel with the topic of The Body Remembers. There is two books that I know about on this topic. The most famous and the most recent is The Body Keeps the Score. Links will be in the show notes. And another one is an older book actually called The Body Remembers. Again, links in the show notes. And one of our former guests suggested this topic, and it's so appropriate because it informs all of our stories. Basically, if you're not familiar with the books, actually, I haven't read either one, but I know all the content because everything I've ever done refers to it. Basically, your body remembers physical trauma that you've been through, even if your mind has blocked it out. Your body will remember and stores that in different places. And so different things can trigger those memories of those physical traumas, and learning and being aware of that during our healing process while we're processing all these emotions, all these traumas, trying to get it out, whether in therapy, in support groups, whatever, keeping that in mind. And so when you experience things like flashbacks and so forth, you have these materials to fall back on, that concept to fall back on. So with me today, our prior guest, Brandon Andrus Green, very recent podcast participant, and Dave Lukens from Australia. Yay. You're the first Australian who's been able to join a panel because of the time difference. So yay,
Woo.
Dave.
Dave from Down Under.
And if you are joining us in the chat room live, and we have people here now, we will honor anonymity. We only state your name if you manually type it in with your question or comment each time. And a reminder, if you would like to join us on future podcasts live, you can learn more about how to do so at polarlifeconsulting.com/live. Let me start. For my own story, I know once I started going through therapy in 2019, uncovering the fact that I'd been trafficked along with the abuse, which I had known about the abuse since I was 30. And this was now in my late 50s, uncovering the trafficking. And then once those gates opened, then I started having flashbacks, and basically as if I was there re-experiencing the trauma. And it was like a memory dump that my body had to basically go through it to get it out and remember these things happened. So horrible, but cathartic. So I basically ended up just reliving and playing out that trauma in these very active flashbacks, and over a period of several months. And eventually I got it all out. But my body had to process that in order to reach the next level of healing. Everyone's healing journey is different. That was mine. But yes, my body definitely remembers sometimes very specific things about a specific trauma. It's like, oh, well, this one was very different. And I could remember that. But I know piecing together, once I knew I had been trafficked, my body started reminding me. I started to get pains in my wrist, and that's kind of normal with my job. You often see me with a wrist brace because of my main job. I use my hands a lot, and I have a lot of repetitive motion injury. But I started feeling ankle pain too, and I'm going, well, what is this? This is different. And it was a different kind of pain than what my normal work pain is. And it was my body telling me, this is what happened, telling me the story. And then I just had to key in and listen to the story be told. And then I realized I was bound. I was bound with my wrists and my feet, and remembering those pains. And my body was basically like putting in a recorder. This was what we felt then, and re-feeling it until it's like, And then I started to tune in and listen to what my body was telling me because it wants the truth out there. And that was so key in my own journey, in my own healing, listening to the body, listening to the story it needs to tell me so I can understand and I can heal and I can move forward. So let's go to Dave. We'll start with you. What would you like to share about your own experiences with the body remembering?
Yeah, so I guess I didn't disclose my abuse for 32 years. Yeah, kind of all through my childhood, I kind of buried things down and blocked stuff out, and particularly in my teenage years as well. I tried to, forget everything that had happened. And so as I got into my adult years, I could remember some things, but not a lot. And it was only when I disclosed, just coming out of COVID lockdowns a couple of years ago, where, stuff started flooding back and, started gradually having all these flashbacks and memories of stuff that happened to me as a kid. And since my last podcast with Mike as well, I've actually had more stuff come back too. And so, basically, I was abused from age 7 all the way up to age 13. And by an older boy at school, and then by a sports coach later on for a number of years too. And I've remembered subsequent abuse that had happened at school as well, just from chatting with a friend. But there's always been random sensations and pains and things in my body, and haven't always been able to explain them. But having a bit more of an understanding now, I guess. But I guess my main sort of trauma response is that when my body's under threat, it faints and collapses and just shuts down. An example of this was only the other week, last week, I ended up in emergency in hospital. I had my finger was shut in a door, so I had like a crush injury, and I had to go into a medical center to get it lanced because the blood was bubbling up and swelling underneath the nail. And the doctor said, to the nurse, "I'll go fetch me a paperclip and a lighter." And just as I was about to lance it, I passed out and I came to on the floor looking up at all these nurses. And then I passed out again and came to on the bed. I passed out again and came to, and I vomited all over one of the nurses, and then ended up coming in out of consciousness, and they ended up calling an ambulance and taking me into hospital. So there's been a number of times over the years where it's been a stressful situation at work. I've collapsed twice teaching in the classroom. When my body's under pressure or stress, it kind of just shuts down and detects sort of a threat. So that's kind of been an interesting trauma response that I've had.
That's very interesting that
Yeah,
you experiencing that, and
and I've been.
go
That's
ahead.
right. So I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD, and when I was in the hospital last week, the doctors were trying to do all these tests of my heart, my brain, and all sorts of things. And then when they read my files and it said about the complex trauma, they said, "Oh, this makes a lot of sense," because they couldn't find anything else wrong with my body and why it just kind of kept on, just passing out and not being able to function. I guess that's kind of a part of my everyday life now. I'm kind of learning to manage the triggers and things. Sometimes different things can trigger my body, whether it's a smell, so particularly smells of urine and sweat. Certain men's colognes can be an incredible trigger as well. Even environmental sort of things. So if I'm in a certain place or a situation, so I've been working through healing journey in sort of sporting environments and locker rooms and change rooms, and kind of getting back into being in those spaces again. But in the past, they used to be severely triggering for my body, and I'd start to break out into sweats, or my chest would be pounding, body would be shaking, head spinning, all those sorts of things. So some sort of spaces, environmental areas, I kind of get a full body reaction from that. And I guess my body just goes into a panic sort of state and just faints or collapses. And even after a number of years of therapy now, it's still happening. Only just recently last week.
Wow, yes, I understand that, and different things are triggering. I know I notice a strong sensitivity to bright lights now, especially overhead strong lights, and I know that's from when they were producing CSAM. With this is in the 70s, so they didn't have little camcorders or little phones. It was the monster Super 8s with the huge headlights, super bright lights, because you need a lot of light to film. And bright lights can be a trigger too, but it's my body remembering that brightness, and that equated with not being safe. And it sounds like those are similar triggers. Now, how about you, Brandon?
It's crazy how years later these things can still haunt us. And it's crazy how we can go so long without remembering. And then at a certain point, these memories just start flooding back. like Dave, you were saying, that seems to be a common theme. You hear that every once in a while with survivors. With me, from the get-go, because mine was, I went through a lot of torture along with my sexual abuse, and there is a medical component to it. There were a lot of injections, and I was like a human guinea pig for periods of time. And so for me, it's a lot of it's medical related. Like, do not do well with needles. I don't do well with like the smell of like rubbing alcohol. And here recently, I had to go to the doctor, and I was wanting to, because I'm starting to be an old man. I'm like 41 now or whatever. I was wanting
Please.
I was wanting to talk to them about getting my testosterone levels figured out. And I was asking, is there any way to forego drawing my blood? Like, I didn't know if there was a certain way that just at a specific age, you could just start getting testosterone, or if I actually had to have my levels ran, if I had to have my blood drawn. And, my doctor was just calling me a wimp. He was playing around, but calling me a wimp because I was saying I didn't want to have blood drawn. And he's like, it's just a needle, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want to explain to him. I didn't want to trauma dump and be like, well, actually, and start going through all the intricacies of why I don't do well with needles. But literally, it's been, I guess, at this point, almost 22 years. Anytime I have to get blood work done, it does not work out. It does not work out. It'll often end up with me blacking out, fainting. I've had scenarios where I'm, throw up or whatever. And they'll often bring in I'll fight the scenario. I'll be like, hey, I really don't want to have my blood drawn. They'll be like, you have to, it'll be fine. And then they'll bring in someone that is supposed to be like a specialist at like getting blood drawn. And then it'll take them forever, sometimes an extended period. Sometimes they'll make me go home and come back the next day. But then I just relive that trauma, because not only am I starting to have flashbacks, but then they're compounding the trauma, because my veins are like hiding, and then they're like, keep poking me. But it's crazy that even after all of these years, certain things can still be just so traumatic.
Right.
And it's weird that, because for the majority of my abuse, I can't account for, I don't have memories for, let's say, 99% of the time. But there are specific memories that I have very clear recollection of. And then I have my triggers, like I said, the smell of alcohol, rubbing alcohol, needles, some other things associated with that type of stuff. But it's crazy how much I don't remember. And so it's weird that some things will be so clear and other things will be just completely unreachable.
Right. Understand. And knowing your story, all the medical trauma you went through. And that makes perfect sense. I know I've learned now to disclose with my dentist specifically. I noticed I was getting triggered with the dentist and letting them know, okay, survivor of childhood trauma. So that was enough. Didn't have to drama dump, like you said, but I often get triggered with certain procedures and so forth. And I know for me, when I'm triggered, I become compliant. So, are you okay? Even though the answer is very, very much this, but I will go, because that's a learned behavior. I'm compliant. So if I go along with it, it will end sooner than if I fight it. It becomes worse. So we developed a system. I don't know where I got it from, if I just came up with it or someone suggested it, but you give a multi-syllable word agreed on ahead of time that they have to ask, if you're okay, say the code word. So it's not a yes or no. It's a different part of your brain. It's like, and it usually ended up just being pineapple. It was easy to remember, multi-syllable. And also, dentist, you have like a mouthful of gear. So it's but if it was anything other than that, because occasionally it's like, okay, if you're okay, say the code word. Okay. And I was not okay. I was getting triggered. The little vacuum thing wasn't where it needed to be, and the saliva was building up in the back of my mouth, horribly triggering. And I just said, and they knew, okay, let's back up and see what he needs to get through it. That was huge, just to be able to do that. And now I moved and I have different dentists now. It's like, I haven't actually found a new dentist, so I'm like putting that off.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why.
It
But
feels like for me sometimes it's easier just to white knuckle it, and maybe it's the fawning reaction where I will just start recoiling in myself. And because often, since mine's trauma related, I mean medical related, a lot of people now, Dave, your scenario wasn't
Mm,
traumatic for me, like hearing about your nail getting crushed and having to go to the hospital. But often when people start talking about rough medical scenarios,
mm,
I will almost start blacking out. And like the
mm,
older people get, the more they talk about their medical problems, you know?
mm,
So it's like when I'm hanging out with some sweet old lady, she starts telling me about all these horrible things with going on with her
mm,
body. And depending what they are, I will literally just start feeling like I'm blacking out. But it's really difficult approaching or broaching these topics with people. You know, sometimes you don't want to have to tell them everything you've been through. It's almost easier to just, my go to has been just like disassociating and praying,
right,
Lord Jesus, please let this be over quickly. Please let
right.
her phone ring. Please let her phone ring.
Yeah.
But it's hard. I commend you, Mike, for actually being able to have those conversations with your dentist. That's
it was a huge jump. But just the fact that whenever they would ask that question, I knew I was being cared for.
yeah, you're safe.
So
Mm,
yeah, it helped me get through it. And yeah, it's that level of safety. It's like, okay, they're caring for me. And that kept me present. And yeah, it's like, okay, it's okay, we can get through this.
mm,
And communicate my needs beyond the trigger of the "Are you okay?" Aha, and yeah, getting to the point of being brave enough to express my needs.
mm,
Because I've had other medical things. It's like, okay, really, really bad and stupid things. I think
mm.
I went in, I think it was colonoscopy. And you'll find those out, Brandon. You're in your 40s. I was fine with all the prep, and then a guy came in to do the nasal cannula, which is, this little thing up the, and I got obviously facial hair. And he was just trying to get it in around and like not mess up my mustache. And it's like he ended up tickling it, and hair in my face, even though it's my own hair, is usually like, but the fact it's like messing with it, just horribly triggering. Eventually I grabbed it from him and shoved it up my nose. It's like, but I was so triggered, and it's like, okay, and I know
Mm,
why, knowing my story, hair in my face, other people's hair, and it's usually the downstairs kind. Yeah, horribly triggering. Even snuggling with my wife, it's like, okay, if we're spooning, it's like, okay, I need just a little bit of space, because yeah, I can't have her hair in my face, which is too triggering. And then realizing, okay, I need to do something, and that's eventually led. I haven't had another colonoscopy since where I've had to deal with that, but it's probably about time too. But yeah, I had to do something. And then realizing, okay, I'm getting triggered with this. And the dentist office was very nice. I had to have a cystoscopy done, which don't recommend it. It's where they go up your urethra. You know where that is?
That does not
Yeah.
sound fun.
yeah.
Brandon, stay awake. And yeah, because they were thinking I had some kind of, anyway, had to do it. And I told them, okay, trauma. Okay, very difficult. Nurse got it. She was so nice. The provider, he didn't give a crap, and he did what he needed to do. And it's like horrible. I felt so uncared for. I was just a body that he needed to get the thing done on, and wham bam, and move on to his next patient. Not, and I complained about it too. I never heard back, but it's like, no, I felt very uncared for. Absolutely. Yeah, it was re-traumatizing for sure. But yeah, I think empowering myself to say, yeah, this is what I need. You want to make sure I feel cared for. This is what I need, and being bold enough to do that. That took huge, because it was not easy. But yeah, advocating for your needs. Brandon, have you ever considered having someone with you, a friend, a buddy, to hold your hand, hug you, whatever you need to do while you're getting that done?
Yeah, and I did back in the day. I think when I was younger, I used to have like family members and stuff go. It's kind of hard finding people that are trauma informed. And I don't know if it's easier for female survivors. I think there's some, I think just for me personally, I won't speak for other male survivors, but for me personally, sometimes it's hard to advocate for myself. I feel like I need to just man it up, just tough it out and just suck it up But I've definitely had advocates in the past that have gone with me. But it's kind of hard just in my normal day and just normal life to find those advocates, much less someone that can go to my doctor's appointments with me.
Right.
But yeah, it's wise. And it takes a lot of, I appreciate you being able to be bold enough to advocate for yourself in the first place. I think that I commend that.
And you can likewise say, okay, I've had a lot of trauma, a lot of medical trauma, like scary stuff. Here's my YouTube clips. And let them know and say, I would really love someone to like hold my hand and be with me while you're doing this stuff. Because that would help me get through it, because it's so re-traumatizing.
What sucks is the trauma, the secondary trauma that comes out of being honest with people, simply sharing your story. Because sometimes not everything always goes your way. I remember I was in one of these scenarios where I was trying to advocate for myself at a doctor's office. They were needing me to, I was at a specialist and I was having to get some blood drawn. And I explained to the nurse that I was a survivor and that I do not do well with needles. It ended up coming up in conversation that she also was a survivor. And we were alone in the doctor's office room together, and she ended up telling me about her childhood. And boy, was it horrific. She was obviously a survivor of satanic ritual abuse. And I am also, but mine was in a limited window, and hers was like a lifetime. You know, it was in her entire childhood, like really rough stuff that you don't even want to repeat. But my heart went out to her. And I also kind of saw her as like a role model, because she seemed like she was doing well in life. Like she had learned how to cope with these scenarios, and her situation was like so much worse than mine. I was like, oh my goodness, sister, like how in the world are you okay? You know? And she told me that she has a garden behind her house, like half an acre, that she uses for coping. And she is always gardening back there after work and so on and so forth. And I just so happened to have a rototiller that a client had given me years prior, and I'd never once even used. And my heart just went out to her. And make a long story short, I told her I was going to give her this rototiller just because I felt like we bonded. She was supposed to come and pick it up. She was a no-show. I sat there at my family's property for like 2 hours waiting for the nurse to come pick up the rototiller. Come to find out, she was convinced that I was trying to lure her into an abandoned building so I could kidnap and torture her. And I don't think like that. Like I would never want to do, not even the people that did this to me. I wouldn't even wish the same things on them. I don't want bad things to happen to anyone. The things that I've gone through, things this lady went through, I don't want anyone to go through that. So to think that I would then do that to someone else, it doesn't even compute in my brain. And it's hurt me. Like I've had to forgive her in this scenario, but it just crushed my soul, because here I was trying to give her like a $600 like nice unit, and she thought I was trying to kidnap and torture her. And I was like, oh my Jesus. So it's crazy how sometimes it blows up in your face. Were you able to reconnect and get it to her, or? She never came and got it. She was a no-show. She ghosted me. And I think like 48 hours later, she ended up texting me and said, hey, I typed in the address you gave me on Google Maps, and it looked like an abandoned building. And I was worried that you were going to kidnap and torture me, so I didn't show up. And it was a vacant building, but it was just because my parents had never done a build out on the building. Like we've just, we're waiting for funds and blah, blah, blah. I don't know what it looks like on Google Maps. I mean, it was a nice building, but either way, she had gone through enough trauma in and of herself that she was triggered. It's hard to know other people's triggers. And sometimes even just telling these stories can become a secondary trauma. So it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, another trigger that I found is the touch of another male. So, I think it was earlier last year I had a massage, and just the touch triggered a full body response again. And so I'm always very uneasy in doctor's surgery sometimes, depending on what's happening. So that can be quite triggering. So I'm kind of learning to deal with that. But physical touch from another male.
I often, unless it's someone that I know and trust, and even still, Yeah, totally tense up. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. I have a comment in the chat. This audience member mentions Pete Walker in CPTSD. I think that's a group, possibly, or is someone who's Brandon. That rings a bell. That name?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. So this person talks about emotional flashbacks where past emotional states arise without the associated memory. So I can wake up in a state of panic or terror without a nightmare. So more related to emotional memory than body memory. I would agree with that. Yeah, they're definitely emotional triggers, and especially if situation A happens and the normal response would be here, but your response is like way up here. Okay, yeah, and something ain't right, and yeah, you're having this strong reaction over this minor thing. It's often related to that, or just sometimes letting the emotions out, mourning the loss, being sad, being mad, crying, giving yourself time and space to process those emotions, just like processing the trauma. Very helpful, very, very cathartic. And yeah, sometimes certain things, I'll watch a show and all of a sudden the tears just start flowing. It's like, okay. And then I'm realizing, okay, yeah, this is like relating. And yeah, then everything just starts pouring out.
And Dave, I don't know about you. I don't know if you're married or not, but I agree with the audience's comment because sometimes I'll have inordinate emotional reactions, something that seems like kind of benign. I was trafficked by my girlfriend as a teenager. Man, I thought she was the love of my life. I thought she was my soulmate. And then she, traded me like a baseball card. And then so because of that abandonment, I will now be extra sensitive to my wife. If she does something that's just normal, I will sometimes relate it to, oh, you're abandoning me or you're not. I will have an inordinate reaction to something and sometimes they'll just be not fair to your loved ones. I don't know if you guys have experienced that or not, but sometimes I feel like I take it out more on those close to me. Like with a doctor, a nurse, coworkers, I can just kind of white knuckle it. I can just kind of tough it out.
Right.
But at home, when my guard is down, sometimes they have to deal with the brunt of it.
Right. I know in the reverse, my wife has had a lot of traumas, not necessarily sexual. Certain things, I will say something and then she'll respond. It's like, oh, I hit that nerve. Oh, I didn't mean to. And then I know enough about her history. It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I know that sounded, I know how it hit you, and I'm so sorry. Because, yeah, her response will be up here. It's like, oh, crap. Okay. And yeah, at 35 years, you know the buttons, and you don't necessarily mean to push it. And then, oh, crap, I pushed a button. I'm sorry. But and then you can backtrack and do quick repair because yeah, and that happens. It happens both ways. Yeah.
I have a question for Dave. Dave, because of your scenario, have you been extra sensitive with your boys? Like found yourself extra protective of them, afraid that they might go through similar scenarios, or do you feel like you've been able to keep it separated?
Great question.
I've got twins. I've got boy-girl twins, and I guess I've been hyper-vigilant my whole life, particularly in locker rooms, change rooms, public environments. I've always been kind of looking for an exit, watching behind my back, never sitting with my back to a door sort of thing, always kind of being aware of who's in which room, that sort of thing. And I guess, having kids amplifies that, particularly when you're out in public settings, on public transport. But I'd definitely say that, I've been very hyper-vigilant and kind of worried that stuff would happen to my kids. They're very good with an understanding of body consent and safe touch and all that sort of stuff. So they kind of had a bit of training in that regard. But as a dad, he's gone through some stuff. But I would definitely say, and particularly when my son turned age 7, that's when stuff started bubbling back to the surface. That's when the trauma happened to me, when it started, and that was kind of during COVID lockdowns. And then later on in the years, as he got a little bit older, and when he hit age 12, that's when the second round of abuse was starting to happen, or it might have been age 11 actually. But all these different sort of milestones, they were even a trigger as well. It kind of And I think, yeah, my son went to a year 6 camp at his school the end of last year, sort of a long a couple of day camp with his school. And yeah, that brought flashbacks to my year 6 camp where I'd remembered stuff happening which I had blocked out until late last year. So yeah, it's just amazing what little things just trigger things, whether it's something happening in your own life now, or something on TV, a song that you might listen to on the radio might kind of take you back to a particular time when stuff was happening. It's
I can relate.
Yeah, absolutely. Following back, we've touched on this a little bit, but when you have these body memories, these body triggers, what do you do to get through them? Any tips, any things you do that might be helpful for others to hear? What have you experienced? I know I've shared a little bit, but yeah, when it's going through, oftentimes just riding the wave. So if this body memory is coming up, with husband material, they say, approach it with curiosity and compassion. So when stuff comes up, so not saying, I have so much trauma, so much is going on. Oh, I wish this did. It's like, no. Oh, well, that's interesting. Well, why am I feeling that? What caused it, or what is my body trying to tell me? And approach it. Okay, this is important, obviously, and listening to it. But then if it's something, okay, ride the wave, but then notice, okay, what is my body telling me? What's going on? And I know there's different grounding techniques. Like I mentioned that your friend does the gardening, the lady you met. That's a very grounding, literally playing in dirt. That's very grounding, or like walking barefoot outside. That can be grounding. Just going outside can be grounding. There's the 5, 4 things, 2 ones, like 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, different things, different colors or whatever. That people have used. What have you used yourself that you have found helpful in getting through those triggers, those traumas, those body memories? And we'll start with Brandon.
So I don't have a list of necessarily super effective ones, but just kind of things that I've developed over the years. One of them, when I'm in really rough scenarios, rough as in it probably wouldn't bother you guys, but let's say I'm stuck in a room and maybe they're watching something that I can't watch, like a horror or gore, or someone's being stabbed, or anytime something's penetrating the flesh, or they're let's say they got bit really bad by a brown recluse and their skin's all, and they have like some gnarly scar, and like they want to like show it off to everyone, and I feel like I'm actually passing out, like everything just kind of glowing black, and I'm starting to sweat. And one of the things that I do is I will literally pinch myself, or I'll like jab my fingernail into my skin. I don't know if it's healthy or not, but it distracts me. I think it comes down to that disassociating thing. But it's like, if I can take over my thoughts, if I can kind of ignore what's going on in the room and start focusing on the pain from the pinch. Or I've been in scenarios where, like, let's say I'm having to do interviews and I'm having to talk about some triggering stuff. Sometimes I'll put a rubber band around my wrist and I can literally just pop the rubber band, and the audience doesn't notice, but it at least will like help keep me grounded.
Right.
A little bit healthier, a little bit more positive coping mechanism I've learned from your upcoming 3rd female guest, Miss Forrest.
Yes.
She's taught me painting. So, because when we were on that trip together, Mike, when I met you, I was amazed by her art collection that she had painted herself. And she had shown me some tips and tricks and told me that was one of her ways of actually grounding. I was trying to find some positive coping mechanisms, not just like drinking, not water or whatever, but like things that actually prevent me from just going home and feeling like I needed to disassociate.
Right.
I can find something healthy to do. So like here recently, I've taken up painting, and it's actually been a lot of fun. I've found it to be cathartic,
Yeah.
But
I've gone to the Speakers Bureau group that I belong to here in North Carolina. They do an annual art therapy retreat.
Wow.
So wonderful. And it's just like 4, 5, 6 hours during the day. So it's not a huge like weekend thing, but nice. And they got all the supplies, and it's all been donated, and you just go and create. And I've done a couple different paintings that, it's telling the story, but Yeah, that's very helpful, very therapeutic. It's like my brain can get the trauma out
Mm.
in a different way than just sharing verbally. And yeah, just the same thing with writing poetry. Anything, any of that right brain stuff, creative, and that's also apparently where trauma is stored, is in the right brain. So if you can do anything in the creative arts, poetry, music, dance, art, sculpture, painting, all that's right brain, and you can often access those traumas coming out. The other things you mentioned, Brandon, is tips to keep you present from dissociating. And I know this is one is just having something to drink, and just that sensation, it's like that keeps me grounded. There's different tricks that I do to keep me grounded, or if I feel I'm losing it, if I do so much on computers, I will take my mouse cursor and encircle the person's face that I'm talking to. Just okay, it's like a visual thing. It's like, okay, all right, I'm still here, because yeah, I will go. And especially as even tonight, Dave was sharing. It's like I left a little bit. It's like, okay, I need to get back in. Okay, all right, yeah, different stories. Yeah, they will be triggering, and it's like getting to the point of recognizing it. It's like, okay, I need to do something. So yeah, your little pinch thing, anything to ground you and keep you present, and identifying those and knowing those things definitely helps, and all those different things that you can do to get that stuff out as well. Dave.
Yeah, so yeah, I find the exact same thing as well. So they become a bit of a fad these days, all those fidget toys that the kids have. But yeah, my brother
Where's
3D
mine?
printed.
Yes, my
Yeah,
fidget
yeah.
toy. Yes, I've got it right here.
There's squishy things, there's spinning things. But I found one, the most effective one is one that
Squishy
my brother.
thing.
Yeah. Do you have any spiky things?
Actually, I've got it's glued. Well, actually, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I got a spiky thing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's this little magnet thing. It's like, yeah,
yeah.
I've had
So
someone give it
I
to
have
me.
a
And
little
yes.
collection of those sorts of things. My brother 3D printed one. It's kind of like this little cylinder with spikes all over it. People thought it was a hair curler, but it's like a hard plastic, yeah, sort of spiky one. So I kind of find that's been very helpful. But I discovered that even when I was a kid, I used to have a rubber band and used to just keep it in my pocket. And I used to kind of flick that, stretch that sort of thing to kind of help regulate myself. Yeah, right back when I was a kid before fidgets were even a thing. So, and yeah, to this day, if there's a rubber band about, I'll pick it up and have a bit of a play with it too. But I guess, yeah, as you're saying, creative arts as well. That's a real big thing for me. I'm quite a creative person. I like writing. In another life, I was going to become a writer or a journalist or something, but yeah, I've gone down a different career path. But I really like, yeah, writing reflections and, yeah, getting my thoughts out there. And it's a really good way of kind of getting stuff out of my head and down onto paper or typing it up, so I don't kind of ruminate over it and things. Yeah, just to get stuff out of my head. I often find, if possible, depending on the situation, if I could remove myself from that triggering situation, get outside, go for a walk. I really love going hiking. I've got a dog. Since we've chatted last time, Mike, as well. So my dog's been a great therapy companion.
Nice.
And just being able to give her a little hug and, yeah, take her for a walk. And she's come from a trauma background as well, so that's been really great. And yeah, I think getting out into nature is one of the best places for me to kind of reset my brain and reset my nervous system, whether it's, yeah, at the beach or, yeah, out on a bushwalk, somewhere like that, somewhere where there's open space around me, not much sort of human impact on the environment, I guess, not too much noise, that sort of thing as well. And particularly where there's some water that might be moving or bubbling, waves, that type of situation helps me as well. And yeah, it's kind of a non-threatening environment for me. I also find music super helpful as well. Yeah, I really like sort of chilled out electronic sort of music or some more acoustic sort of folky stuff as well. Something that kind of really settle my mind and relax me. It just helps me to kind of slow down to a slower tempo and things as well. But on the other hand, I have got into fitness and exercise. I've now down 23 kilos.
Wow.
And
Nice.
I'm coming to America in for the next husband material retreat
Oh,
in
you're
a little
coming to
while.
Georgia.
Yeah, I got to come meet you.
Oh my
Excellent.
goodness.
I'm coming to
Excellent.
Georgia.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I'll be able. I'm actually going to be running a marathon in America, a half marathon. That's a crazy
Wow.
Nice.
plan with one of the guys from Husband Material in early May. So I'm going to be sticking around for that. So running and exercise has been a really helpful thing for me. And yeah, that's when I put some fast paced music on to kind of yeah, energize my brain, I guess.
Nice.
And probably the last couple of things that I've been finding really helpful is, just in recent years, I've been able to put around me a team of sort of trusted male supporters and things. So I've kind of been able to get a core group of guys who I feel safe with and comfortable with, and I can be vulnerable and honest with them. And they've been super encouraging, super supportive. If I'm struggling, I can reach out to someone. And particularly, I've got friends all around the world now. So even though my Aussie mates might be asleep, there'll be somebody on the other side of the world who I can reach out to who would just be lunchtime for them, but it's middle of the night for me. So that's been really helpful too. And probably the last one is deep breathing. Yeah, lots of deep breaths and things to kind of just that slow exhale, just trying to, regulate my body, I guess, and just show that the threat has passed. And just to kind of really slow myself down has been really helpful, I think.
Excellent.
Some really good points.
Yeah, we've got another comment from an audience member. So I'm putting that up here. The only body memory I remember most of my repressed abuse was at age 8 is the nausea I always felt at the smell of a certain ethnic food that was prevalent in the apartment buildings where I was often abused. I never understood why that smell was so overpowering for me. And that makes perfect sense. Smells can be very, very triggering, like we mentioned, cologne or different smells, and anything your brain associated with the trauma. And so it's linked. So yes, that makes perfect sense that smell that you were not familiar with then ties to that. Absolutely. Brandon, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, I wanted to mention something about what Dave said. It reminded me of a healthy coping mechanism that I've found. I have an emotional support bird. I have a cockatiel that really helps ground me. It reminds me of your trauma dog. It's amazing what relief I've been able to get from my little cockatiel when I'm struggling emotionally or feeling, just going through some of those trauma responses that are so common with us survivors. It's amazing how I've been able to just like go back to my room and hold my bird and actually feel better. It reminds me of you going on your hikes with your puppy.
Yep.
Right. Wow. And and I've talked about George. He's actually not here tonight. He's in the other room with mommy. But he's so helpful, so calming. And he's gone through a lot of trauma. He's a rescue, and he's processed a lot of trauma, and he knows I do too. And very calming, very centering. Helped me a lot. And when he's here, and if I'm feeling trauma, and especially if he's like up and not sleeping, if it's up, then I'll just do a little hug, just kind of take his body and just shove it against mine. He's big and he doesn't like to be held. So I can't just pick him up. I do, especially if I really want to mess with him, I'll just pick him up and he'll be go, oh, I don't like this. And I'll pick him up. I'll force and do that. But usually I'll just like lean him against my body, and that he likes that. It's like a little doggy hug, and just lean him over. And that another way of just grounding and keeping me present. Anything like that you can do.
Absolutely.
So does your bird have the little vest, emotional support?
It's funny. I do have a little vest for him. It has a bow tie though.
Okay. Excellent. Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
That's cute.
Let's see. And anything else? Wrapping up. Anything else that you want to say? Final thoughts. We'll start with Dave.
Yeah, I think therapy's shown me that even though I've kind of come a long way in my journey, triggers are still going to happen, and it's kind of just about how I try and manage those in the situation. Sometimes I can't do anything about it, like my body will shut down, but other times I can kind of sense when I might be getting tipped over the edge, and can kind of either remove myself out of the situation, or try one of those regulation techniques and things as well. That's probably the main sort of takeaway that I'll get.
Excellent. Brandon?
For me, it's realizing that our body isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it learned to do to protect us, Right. But the same nervous system that learned danger can also learn safety. And when we get to the point that we're feeling safe, and the safety first starts internally, feeling that we're okay, we can actually start rewiring our brain, rewiring our hippocampus, our all the various trigger mechanisms in our body that are causing those things. Because trauma isn't just the event, it's what, the nervous system learned from the event. And we can relearn those things.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And I think it's so important to learn to listen. We've got another comment from the audience. Dissociation saved me then, but hinders me now as I have trouble focusing at times. And exactly what we were talking about, learning, okay, tools to help when you dissociate, when you feel triggered, all those tools that we mentioned, the rubber band and so forth, to keep you present and identifying that, learning when you're feeling triggered. It's like, oh, I'm dissociating now. Okay, let me bring myself back. It's not always easy to do, but then as you grow, as you heal, realizing, okay, I just got triggered. I need to come back in. Or having people in your life who know I've been on podcasts, and someone who knows me very well will notice that I left the building. So Mike, what do you think about that? And I'm back. I agree with what that last person said, even though I have no idea what they just said because I was in the next county. Yeah, and that's a nice, polite way. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna bring you back in, Mike. I know you left a little bit, but and I appreciate that. And then I'll double check. You knew? It's like, yeah, I knew. It's like, thank you. Someone who's sensitive in that way. And a few people will clock it when I leave. Most people, they don't know to even look for that. But yeah, do what you can. Know what your limitations are. Know when you are in situations where you get trouble, like the medical situations that Brandon mentioned, and have a plan. Do what you need to do to take care of you. No one else is going to take care of you. You need to learn to take care of you. Brandon, anything else? You got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's such a big deal for us males to be discussing this stuff, for so long. Us as males, especially males survivors, we didn't have these terminologies, or at least it wasn't discussed openly for quite a while, probably over a decade and a half. I was actively dissociating consistently and just didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have words for it. It wasn't until the past handful of years that I've actually realized what I'm doing is actually disassociating. This is a coping mechanism. And there's actual ways to deal with these scenarios. I'm not alone in this struggle.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Learning about ourselves and what does set us off, and being there for ourselves, and taking care of ourselves, and doing what you can to get through it, because we all face those traumas and we've all faced those triggers. And thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Dave. Thanks, Dave. Our audience members. Thanks, audience. And with that, we'll see you next time on the Healing for Male Survivors podcast. If you would like to learn more about my coaching with Polar Live Consulting, where I provide one-on-one coaching and group coaching, both with a focus on healing for male survivors, reach out to me at polarliveconsulting.com. That is Polar spelled Polar. I would love to hear from you. I want to hear your story. If you would like your story featured on this podcast, contact me via my website. If you like this podcast, please rate and review, because that's how other people can find me, and I really want to spread this message of healing and hope to others. And remember, you are not alone. Healing is possible, and the abuse was not your fault. Let me repeat that. The abuse was not your fault. See you next time on the Healing for Male Survivors podcast.